I'd like to call the meeting to order. Roll, if you would, please, Michelle.
Avon.
Here.
Caledonia.
Here.
Canisius. Geneseo.
Here.
Groveland. Lester.
Here.
Lima.
Here.
Livonia. Mount Morris. North Dansville.
Here.
Nunde.
Here.
Ashen.
Here.
Portage. Sparta. Springwater. Here. West Sparta.
Here.
York.
Here.
I'd like to ask Springwater Supervisor Deb Babb.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, the meeting minutes of July 12th for your consideration. Does anyone have any changes they wish to bring forward at this time? Hearing none, I look for a motion in a second, please.
Move fall.
Second, Walker.
Thank you. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Those are carried. Communication, Michelle?
Thank you note from Michelle Post.
Thank you. We have an abstract of claims.
Mr. Chairman, I move this abstract of claims and ask for unanimous consent.
Thank you, Mr. Knapp. Is there any questions or discussion on this abstract of claims? Hearing none, roll please, Michelle.
Avon.
Aye.
Caledonia.
Aye.
Canisius. Geneseo.
Aye.
Groveland. Lester.
Aye.
Lima.
Aye.
Livonia. Mount Morris. North Dansville.
Aye.
Nunde.
Aye.
Ashen.
Aye.
Portage. Sparta. Springwater.
Aye.
West Sparta.
Aye.
York.
Aye.
Ayes 4152, absent 902, adopted.
We have a few resolutions that are going to play with separate roll call vote.
Mr. Knapp, amending the 2023 Livingston County budget, Center for Nursing and Rehabilitation, Highway, and Sheriff's Office. There are three.
Mr. Chairman, I move this resolution and ask for unanimous consent.
Thank you, Mr. Knapp. Any questions or discussion on this resolution? Hearing none, roll please, Michelle.
Avon.
Aye.
Caledonia. Canisius. Geneseo.
Aye.
Groveland. Lester.
Aye.
Lima.
Aye.
Livonia.
Aye.
Mount Morris. North Dansville.
Aye.
Nunde.
Aye.
Ashen.
Aye.
Portage. Sparta. Springwater. West Sparta.
Aye.
York. Ayes 4152, absent 902, adopted. Authorizing transfer of funds, Department of Health.
Mr. Chairman, I move this resolution and ask for unanimous consent.
Thank you, Mr. Knapp. What's that? You said Department of Health.
No. Academic.
Oh, wait a minute.
I'm sorry.
I'm sorry.
Oh, no worries. Just want to make sure.
No, it should say Department of Health, I'm
It
sorry.
is Department of Health, I'm sorry, okay. Very good. Are there any questions on this transfer of funds? It is Department of Health. Hearing none, roll please, Michelle.
Avon.
Aye.
Caledonia.
Aye.
Canisius. Geneseo.
Aye.
Groveland. Lester.
Aye.
Lima.
Aye.
Livonia. Mount Morris. North Dansville.
Aye.
Nunde.
Aye.
Ashen.
Aye.
Portage. Sparta. Springwater. West Sparta.
Aye.
York.
Aye.
Ayes 4152, absent 902, adopted. Authorizing the purchase of one 2020 Ford F-350 XLT pickup truck for the Livingston County Highway Department. Options International.
Mr. Chairman, I move this resolution and ask for unanimous consent.
Thank you, Mr. Knapp. Is there any discussion on this purchase? Hearing none, roll please, Michelle.
Avon.
Aye.
Caledonia.
Aye.
Canisius. Geneseo.
Aye.
Groveland. Lester.
Aye.
Lima.
Aye.
Livonia. Mount Morris. North Dansville.
Aye.
Nunde.
Aye.
Ashen.
Aye.
Portage. Sparta. Springwater. West Sparta.
Aye.
York.
Aye.
Ayes 4152, absent 902, adopted.
I did have one appointment. Please.
Appointment to the Livingston County Youth Board, James Merrick, and he's representing Groveland. That term is at foot.
Thank you. Ian, before we do the project update, do you have any updates for the board?
Basically, what I had indicated at Ways and Means this week was that the 2024 budgets kicked off, so the submissions are coming in from the department heads. We've got the ERP system module for position budgeting that's new this year, so we had some training set up on that. Issued guidelines, we're doing forecasts for the retirement system right now and sales tax, so those are some big ones. In addition to health insurance, kind of figuring out where that's going to sit for the renewal, which we're now on a calendar year basis instead of, we used to be 10/1 for a start of the year. And then I did mention that the re-grant requests are rolling in from the town. So I think we've got a half dozen or so submittals for the ARPA re-grant of $20,000 for parks, recreation, trails, or tourism at the town level. So those have been some great project requests. Really excited to see what those look like again at the town level. So just a reminder that that's open for the other, whatever it is, 11 that have yet to submit.
Thank you. Next, we're going to have a project update from Livewell. We have had in the past some presentations, and we continue to move forward with their project, and give us kind of a recap of where they are right today on the project.
Okay. Thanks for having me again. I know this was a little last minute notice getting us on the agenda, but we appreciate the opportunity to share where we're at with our project and provide updates accordingly. For those who haven't heard me speak before, I'm Don Mills. I'm the executive director of the Livewell nonprofit. What I'm going to do through the presentation slide deck, which will be shared with the group post-presentation, is concisely go through some of the data points that continue to show need for what we're trying to accomplish here with our project for Livingston County, provide some updates on where we're at, and then provide an ask for where we would like to go. Okay. So the first data point I'm putting up there, I'm going to focus more on the health and wellness aspect for our county. These data points come from the Common Grounds Health out of Rochester, New York, and then also the CDC as we move. The first one just shows the level of access to activity and exercise. As you can see from the graph, Livingston County at 74% is significantly below Monroe County, New York State, and local Ontario County. Some more data on health and wellness. So 71.4% of our population in Livingston County is considered obese or overweight as adults, which is 10 percentage points higher than New York State average. This is not just our county. Mental health continues to be an issue across the country. 52 of our residents reported having personally dealt with mental or emotional health issues. So how does exercise impact mental health? A study done by the CDC shows that among those that exercise, the number of poor mental health days has dropped by more than 40% in a multi-year study they did. And talk about financials too as it goes with health. So there's a significant cost to health there. That's nothing new or new information. But physical activity, obesity, heart disease, these all have a significant economic impact on our Livingston County, other counties, and productivity in the workplace. Okay, so back to our project. We'll talk briefly about a commitment to health and wellness as it ties in. As most of the room at this point is familiar with, the Bruckle family hired me about a year ago to become the full-time executive director of this project for our county to try to develop an indoor recreation and community space. I've learned a lot in a year. We've had a lot of highs, we've had some lows, but what I've always tried to do is be data-driven with our nonprofit organization to try to make the best decisions in the stance of our project and our community. What the Bruckles have committed to this point, I just want to be clear, it's a significant contribution. They've earmarked the land donation where the appraised value exceeds $250,000, and that's on the conservative end. They've hired me to develop the project, and you see the number there, what that's been in on. Legal, financial, we've been very market driven with feasibility studies, data, which I'll get into a little bit, there's the contribution level currently and ongoing. They're committed to providing necessary project financing as we get closer to our goal in order to make this thing a reality. Obviously making smart fiscal decisions that way. And then they're also committed to creating an endowment fund to make sure that this facility and operations sustainable. I'm going to go through a couple more data points, and then I'll wrap up with a few slides about the project, and then I want to leave some time for question and answer at the end. So these data points are nothing new to the room, but I just want to reiterate, through multiple studies, we have data that shows that our residents are willing to pay to use recreation space at over 77% clip. Our residents have stated that they're willing to use local tax dollars to develop this facility. And the number up there shows 85%. Let's talk real quick about the Livingston County population, where we're currently at. Obviously, that chart isn't going in the direction we would like to see, and there's a lot of potential reasons as to why. We have just under a 10% drop in population since 2008. What we do know from the data is that recreation communities, especially rural recreation communities, do draw residents. So our project will have the capacity to draw and retain and attract residents. Let's get into more. Talk a little bit about community spaces. So we're not just an exercise facility. What we're proposing outdoor meeting spaces where you could do farmers market events, community marketplace events. You see from the pictures of what the indoor space could be used for. Dog shows actually are a draw, and something that I believe we could do here. Trade shows, craft fairs, career fairs, the list goes on and on. Again, it's a multi-purpose, multi-use, multi-serving facility that's proposed. I sent over a letter to the board outlining what our partnership proposal could look like. One of those big things that we are excited about and will follow through with is providing open recreation access to our residents. Again, we're a nonprofit. We want to see people utilize the facility, remove barriers to access. This is just an example of what that could look like with indoor walking track, pickleball opportunity, basketball, ice opportunity, et cetera, room reservations for meetings and groups and things and support groups and things like that. And again, this has been shared out. I don't mind sharing to anybody that's interested. And this could be a potential schedule at a glance. As you see, it will be a pretty dynamic facility as far as what we offer, from music therapy through our Office of the Aging, to homeschool programming opportunities for physical education, to figure skating practice, to child watch opportunities for our residents to go work out while their kids are being watched under supervised care, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Okay, this is something that I really wanted to illustrate to the group as I've developed the project, and the project's been talked about obviously for longer than I've been in Livingston County. One of the questions has been, okay, where are we going to put this project? Well, as you can see from the plot on the map, all the plot marks outside of Livingston County are where current facilities are, just so everybody in the room can get a visual of where that's at. Down in Wyoming County, that's the Wyoming County YMCA. Down in Hornell, that's the Hornell YMCA in the southern tier. And then you can see all the facilities in Monroe County in the northern tier, which is a combination of YMCA's community centers and field houses. The blue dot is where our facility is proposed to go to through the land donation, through the Bruckle family. So you can see from an access point, as you look through the map, we're a lot closer than a lot of these facilities currently exist for a majority of our residents. Also, as I've spoken to it through our community, to players as far as athletic directors, all the way through community organizations, we know the reality that our residents are traveling to Monroe County for goods and services. Well, not only are we closer than those locations, but that also allows our residents to stay in Livingston County and spend their dollars in Livingston County and raise their families in Livingston County through these services. So I just hope that shows a little illustration of, hey, while we may not be in the smack dab center of Livingston County, we're still going to be pretty closer and accessible to a lot of our residents. Briefly, economic impact of the Live Well Community Center. So in April, we engaged with Camoin to develop a study to show job creation non-resident attraction based on the proposed facility and the annual fiscal benefit to Livingston County, New York. All this information is on our website. All this information is public and available. I'll share with anybody. But the point of this is, we're more than just a quality of life facility. An investment in our facility is not only investment in the families here in Livingston County, but also there's a financial benefit as well, which is important in its own right. This is outside the room of a quick rendering of what could be. Again, we talk about impact. Our facility could be the catalyst to a lot more. So as you look at the map, this is adjacent to Interstate 390 where the land's been donated. On the back part of the property is the Live Well Community Center facility, parking infrastructure in phase 1 of the indoor build that we're proposing. What we've done is we've created a plan, a master plan where, once we're effective with the development of this facility, we're going to need to provide resources so people stay and play, and it becomes a tournament draw site. So that's where you have the potential for a hotel and some restaurant opportunities. And then also our partner in this project, the LAL Railroad, then also has some added benefit with their commercial property, but is also spaced far enough away where we have a separation between community recreation and other entities from a safety and flow standpoint. And I'm happy to answer any questions about that too. So let's get to our ask to wrap it up. So what we're asking for is significant. We're asking for $10 million over 5 years for capital construction costs from Livingston County. This ask comes with conditions. It comes with the conditions of us continuing to do our job and be able to deliver the rest of the funding stack at the state, federal, private level. If you all are moved to the point where you feel like this is the right thing to do and there's a number there that you feel comfortable with, and hopefully that number is close to what we're asking, what that's going to do for us is a lot of things. It's going to give us that local backing where now people at the state, federal, and private level say, okay, this is more than just Don Mills and the Bruckle family driving this project. This is a true county-wide community project at this point. And then, on your end, as you consider our request, realize this is only 25% of the capital stack. So there's a lot of work that we're committed to doing to make this happen. This is just a very important step in our process and a necessary step. The second point down there, I think this to me, this comes through our partnership. If you guys are interested in moving forward, it's an annual allocation at some level to support programs and access, maybe transportation solutions that allows the full magnitude of our county to enjoy what we're going to offer at the facility. And I think to me, that's an ongoing conversation. That's not something we need to discuss today. I think the capital ask is really where we're at right now with our project. And just to sum things up, and I hope I was concise enough, this is a quality of life project for Livingston County. It's going to have economic impact. It's going to change the landscape of our county for the better for a long time. So I appreciate you guys being willing to work with me and listen to me for the past year. It's been a tremendous project for us, and we look forward to finding solutions together. And I'll leave with that point. If not now, then when? This is our opportunity to really make something happen. So there's my information. I'm happy to answer questions at this time. Yes, ma'am.
Yeah, I'm curious as to your statement that our residents have a lower access to activity. We have state parks, county parks, and town parks that have walking and hiking trails and playgrounds. We have an active 4-H program that works on getting kids outdoors for a variety of projects, including horseback riding. And we do have a Y in Dansville now.
Yes, no, absolutely. So the data point on the first point was through the Common Ground Health through Rochester, which is a nonprofit organization that takes a look at the health, wellness, and activity in the Finger Lakes region specifically. I think we could do a deeper dive into, why that number is the way it is. And I'm not saying that as a county we aren't currently doing significant programming and opportunities in the realm of health and wellness. But I think if you look at the climate that we live in Livingston County, New York, there's only so much out of the year that we can be outside. And if you take a look at our indoor recreation opportunities in our county, there's a lacking access and lacking facility currently. So, yes, ma'am.
I have a question. If the county were to say no to this, would you still continue with this project?
Very good question. You know, over the past year, again, I've spent my full time trying to figure out the best course of action to bring this project to Livingston County, New York. If the county says no to our request, this project becomes a significantly uphill battle for us. I wouldn't say that the project's finished at that point, but the project we're proposing in its current form that we've been proposing does no longer exist. It changes. And it changes to a point where it doesn't necessarily have the same amenities, impact, and draw as what we're proposing. I hope that answers your question.
So you would change to a for-profit?
You know, it's another good point. We've talked about that, you know, doing a for-profit type model, and it's not really what we want to do. It's not really, personally, even myself and the Bruckle family, like, we really want to have a facility that is accessible and it's not pay to play exclusive, right? That's not really how we want to approach this project. But unfortunately, without funding backing, you know, and again, we're starting here, but we're also exploring other opportunities at multiple levels. That's when you start to become more of that type of model in order to keep the place open. So I hope, does that help? And I'm happy to talk, you know, go into more depth and detail about that. Oh, yes, over here. I'm sorry.
I think I heard you say, I just wanted to clarify it, that the 10 million you're asking for from the county is a quarter of the total cost? Did you say that?
Yeah, so our vision for the project, and you know, unfortunately, 10 million doesn't get you what it used to. It's just the reality of the way things are nowadays. But our vision was that we proposed a $35 million project. So the 10 million, and we've structured it over 5 years with conditions of the place, you know, becoming what we want it to become, or we propose to become, would be a quarter of that capital cost. And the plan, as it stands today and moving forward, is we have a big state application deadline with Empire State Development due on Friday, which is pretty much, I mean, it's wrapped up. I just hit submit. I'm just putting a couple of things over. I'm asking for $7 million there, by the way, for full. I'm always fully transparent. And then once if we're able to get a contribution at the county level, and then we hear back, you know, at the state and the federal level, we got a federal ask out there as well. We can take a look at that number, and then we're working with a local leadership team to really help drive our private fundraising, corporate fundraising strategy. Because I'm smart enough to know, and our organization is smart enough to know that that's where I'm going to need some help. So on that level, we want to make sure we get the best possible facility for Livingston County. So.
Question.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
The ice rinks, if I look at it, looks like if you compare the 2 rinks to the one, about 7.5 million. So if you're gonna do 2, does that mean the ice rinks are approximately $15 million out of the project?
Yeah, it's a good question. So the ice is obviously the most financially expensive piece of the proposed project. What we're doing on the ice side, well, a couple things. Reason why ice is attractive for this project, besides the fact that we don't have the current infrastructure to support the need in our county, is the fact that it's a real draw. People are willing to travel and pay. Okay. And our current plan on the ice side is we're working with a refrigeration company, Simco, out of Toronto, and we've engaged with them to help us try to receive the energy type credits, where we would take the heat that's produced off of the ice and recycle it back through the rest of the facility, which would open us up to potentially a point of funding that would allow us to develop both ice facilities at a lower cost than the 15 million through the whole project. If that, and that's kind of we're still exploring that, but that would need to happen for it to work because again, it's a big sticker price. So but we want to explore that as far as we can until maybe we get to a point where we say, hey, maybe only one ice rink is feasible and we don't get as much of the fiscal benefit, but we still get a benefit. So part of the planning process. Questions, by the way. Yes.
When we talked earlier, I think you said this is going to be done in phases, this project. What's the first phase, second phase, third phase, and how much is the first phase approximately?
Yeah, good question. So when I say first phase, we're really looking at the indoor aspect of the facility. To break that down further, our first phase is we're still committed to getting to that $35 million facility. Now, depending on, our response as we learn more through the state process, through the private outreach, because we really haven't done a whole lot of private outreach yet. And really that's because people are, to be honest, people are still wondering if it's going to happen, right? I mean, we have some good progress and a good start, but until we get a significant contribution from a second family or a second organization or municipal level, however that looks, we really haven't wanted to go out there and push at that level to be respectful of that process. So our first phase, to answer your question, is still the $35 million indoor complex. If we fall short of our mark, hopefully we're having this conversation together because you guys have wanted to jump in. But if we fall short of our mark, then we look at, okay, how do we prioritize what we have for maximum impact, obviously? And then our second phase would be the outdoor development, whether that's recreational fields, parks, playgrounds, et cetera, on the site. And if I go back to the site, you can see in the back portion where it says that at the top, Livewell Community Center, that's 20 acres of undeveloped property, which could turn into a lot of the outdoor fields and other amenities depending on what's important and funded.
And I have another question. You're looking for 10 million over 5 years, and then an annual allocation from the county. What's that number and what's that for?
Yeah, so that's a good question, and I've been kicking that around as far as what that looks like. When you look at similar facilities, both in our community, not in our community, but in our state in Western New York, a lot of times there's an annual allocation that supports, like I said, access and programs and things like that. So that way, because when you're creating your pricing structure for a facility like this, you got to be cognizant of people being able to access, et cetera. So from that standpoint, as I stand today with our organization, I really leave that to a further conversation. But the reason why I put that out there is I don't like surprises. I'm sure you guys don't either. So what I'm kind of saying is, hey, jump in with conditions at our first ask, and then we could talk about, as we define our plan, whether that, and just one example I'm going to throw out there, transportation continues to be a hot button topic of how people are going to get to the facility. And I know rural communities have this challenge. So as we identify maybe a solution to transportation, maybe we work together to say, okay, maybe there's an annual allocation to support a solution there that we can vote on later and get behind in order to make this thing accessible, et cetera. So that's really what I was getting at, the annual allocation at this stage as I molded over and our organization molded over. So I don't want to surprise anybody. Like, I'll probably ask for more, but you're allowed to say no too. So, okay. You know that. Yes, sir.
Back to one of your original slides, you had said that you had almost 85% feedback. How did you obtain that?
Yeah, good question. So that's from the 2018 Johnson Consulting study that was done Well, by this group. Yeah, by this group.
2018?
Yeah, pre-COVID. And I think in the survey, they got about 1,500 to 1,600 responses. And again, I sent the slide, that's where that number comes from. They get 1,399 yes and 241 no. But you know, the nice thing about our plan is the economic impact and development that is projected to result from our facility to bring this money right back into the county. So, you know, it's,
Have you done anything post-COVID? Because obviously the economy has changed drastically post-COVID.
yeah, good question. So post-COVID, from a study standpoint, what we've invested in is we invested in a study end of December where, and Norm Gill came in, the principal of Pinnacle Indoor Sports. They're out of Kentucky. And what they did is they did local interviews and a market assessment to see, okay, is the need still here? What's the scope and size that this community can support as long as it's under the right, you know, business structure and financial structure? So that was done, and it showed support, overwhelming support for our project. And then we did the Camoin study to show economic impact based on that scope that was recommended by the firm. So those are the two studies we've invested in primarily since I started. Yes, sir.
How much of the 35 million do you need to have in place before you start?
Yeah, good question. So I would like to get to 20 million as a goal to say, okay, we have enough now to really develop some of the significant features that our community will benefit from. You know, the senior center being included to support the Office of the Aging, the indoor walking track, the multi-purpose court type spaces and the conference room type spaces. One of the things that I'm super excited about our project is the plan we've developed is not a if we build it, they will come type plan. We have several partners in education, and as I've mentioned, in education and senior services, et cetera, that are interested in being a part of what we're doing, which will bring people to our facility during non-peak hours, and give them other reasons to come for programs, et cetera. So.
Do you ever envision this project to be self-supporting rather than an annual budget item for the county?
Yeah, that's a really good question. So for a self-supporting facility, our debt stack needs to be low. We can't take on significant financing to make this happen, to be self-supporting. So the answer is yes, we can be self-supporting, but it depends on the amount of debt we're under in order to move. And then it also depends on, there's a continuum. When you look at recreation facilities, there's the pay-to-play type, for-profit model, and then there's the open access model. And I think as we work together, it's, hey, where do we want to be on that continuum, right? Do we want to charge a certain rate, and now maybe some people don't have the same amount of access, or do we want to subsidize? How do we want to go? And I think that's an open conversation, but our goal is not to create a facility that relies on a continual large funding stream. That's not how we're about this project. That's not our goal whatsoever. So very good question.
Do you have an estimated fixed cost once this project is up and running that you have to take in every year?
Yes, another good question. So from an operational standpoint, for staffing and utilities, et cetera, we get the full scope of the project. And childcare, if we get the full scope of the project, our annual operating is going to probably hover just under 3 million, 2.5 to 3 million. And that's based on projections and other similar type facilities, et cetera.
That's gross absent any potential revenues we have?
Oh, yeah. That would be like, that's our expenses. Yeah. And then from a program standpoint, the way these facilities operate, and again, I have extensive experience but we've also obviously enlisted experts to help because we want to get this thing right and do it right. It's typically a 40, 60, 80 model. So year one, you're typically programmed at 40% capacity. Year two, 60% capacity. And then you hit year three. That's really the start of year three is really your stride when you've developed your brand. Now, one of the nice things, the benefits to our project, moving at the pace it's moved at, is we've already begun to do outreach and support community programs throughout Livingston County. So by the time our facility opens, we're going to have a user base installed. So we might even be able to expedite that process more versus if we were just handed the check today and said build it. So, which we would be okay with too, but you see what I'm getting at. So. Yes, sir.
One last question. Best guess, and you must have thought about this, how many people will participate at this facility, full build out on phase one daily?
Yeah, sure. So the annual number I'm looking at, the annual number was, so you saw the non-resident, let me show you the non-resident number, and I think it's times, okay, so non-residents, and when they say non-residents, that's obviously people that come in from Monroe County, Ontario County, et cetera, for some of our tournaments and programs. And some of them may stay overnight, some may go back. But if you're looking at between 115 and 169 for non-residents, annual visitor wise, we would probably, I got to remember the data, I think it was around 250,000 type visits a year, but I'd have to get back on that one. I don't have that one stuck in my mind specifically. We do have the number. I'll get back on that one. You stumped me on that one a little bit. We do have that.
Any other questions for Dan? Thank you, Dan.
Yeah. Yeah. No, thank you to the board and everybody else for continuing to ask questions. It's only helped our project. So we look forward to moving forward and progressing. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yep.
Any other business to come before Mr. Dan?
Chairman, I ask for a short executive session to discuss the proposed acquisition and sale of a piece of real estate property.
Second for that?
Second.
Second by Mr. Pangrazio. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, carried. Who would we like to hear stay?
County Administrator, full board, and Shannon.
Thank you.
And actually, Mr. Chairman, I'd like to request Phil Bacon to stay also.
Thank you.